Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the final panel of STF CONline 2026. We hope that all of you guys have had a great weekend so far playing some games. Heath and I are very, very excited to be here today to chat with Jenny Jarzabski and Aras Yazgan, two members of the development and design team behind Starfinder 2E. Jenny is the creative manager and Aras is a designer. Today we're going to pick their brains a little bit about Starfinder 2E. But before we do that, how are each of you doing today? This fine morning. Jenny's muted.
Well, Jenny's
I'm
muted.
muted! Yay! The glitch gremlins got me again. I'm doing great though. Yeah, really, everybody get it. I'm doing great. Also because I have a new friend that I just want to show y'all. Have y'all met Murphy yet?
Oh, we're starting it off with the fluffers. That's awesome.
This is Murphy.
Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
If we're both doing
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah, we got to go ahead and do this. Aras is going to go get his new puppy too. Oh my goodness.
We have some star dogs.
This is Lodos.
I feel like we've already hit the peak of this panel, and it's all downhill from here.
Is it what? Is he a corgi?
No, he's a mini Aussie Shepherd.
Oh, Australian Shepherd. Okay.
Yeah, he's like 13 weeks old, so
I
still a little
thought
baby.
corgi at first, and I was like, oh, our podcast is laden with riddled with corgis, so
Yeah.
you're gonna fit right in.
We had a corgi invasion last year.
Oh, I love corgis. They're very cute.
Yeah, so Jenny, you've been with Paiza for how long now? Quite a while.
Yeah, it's been like 5.5 years that I've been
Okay.
on staff. Yeah. Longer
Yeah, and
as a
you've-
freelancer.
Yeah, started there, and now you're leading up a team here. So that's been quite a journey for you. And Ross, you started pretty recently, huh?
Yes, I started about I think 8 months ago now, maybe 9.
Can you give us a little bit of your background of how you came to Paizo and what kind of things got you into the hobby and into this career?
Sure. I'm originally an engineer. I went to like university for computer engineering. I graduated in 21, so COVID era
Mm-hmm.
job market. I always wanted to get into game development in one way or another, but uh I was working like a normal engineering job, but after about a year and a half, I was like, if I keep doing this, I'm gonna hate myself when I grow up because I don't enjoy what I'm doing. So
Mm-hmm.
I perhaps a bit unwisely quit my job without finding another job first.
Oh.
And during the interim where I was unemployed, I spent a lot of time and like I started playing TTRPGs back in 21 when I moved to Seattle. And during the period where I was unemployed, I was just kind of almost doing writing settings and trying out new systems as almost like a full-time job without pay, obviously. Um,
Those are the
uh,
best kind.
yeah. Uh, where I met Jay was actually kind of interesting because we met at GDC, Game Dev Conference in SF. Uh, and I did started with some freelance work for actually the upcoming Gen Con book that I think we announced uh, somewhat recently.
Yes, we
Um,
did.
yeah, and it was kind of soon after I started that the job opening was posted. I applied, did the tests, did the interviews, and now I'm here.
Looks like you passed.
Yeah.
Seems like you passed. Um, awesome. Well, welcome to the team. I know it's 8 months late, but we're glad that you're here, and thank you for
Thank
joining us
you.
today. Jenny, you've kind of had a whirlwind, as I said, moving from freelance all the way to leading a team. What's been the craziest move that you've had so far in your 5 years?
I don't know. I do think this one is probably, well, it's the busiest, but it's also the most fun. I would say, like, actually managing the whole team. Because, I started out, I worked on Starfinder Society, and I was in a way kind of in charge of a program, but I didn't really have anyone working under me. I had some people working with me. Like
Right.
Thirsty was there, obviously, he was a mentor. John Compton was another person who was a mentor and who would work with me from time to time. So I wasn't, but I was largely kind of coming up with outlines and expected to, outline, plan for this whole season, what Jessica Catalan does now.
Right.
I was doing that with some guidance, but that was a lot. Like I was very busy. I loved it. It was very intense, but I enjoyed it a lot. And I think it kind of got me ready for this job because after that I ended up jumping over to Starfinder just like because I thought it would be fun to work on the rule books and the hardcover or softcover APs, which is what I did for a bit. That was different. That was, I hate to say it, but that was like almost, it was more laid back in a way because it
Hmm.
wasn't the crazy turnover of like you got to do 2 scenarios every month and because
Right.
at the time that's what it was. However, you have much bigger projects there, so it's kind of easy to let that get out of hand or kind of lose track, and there's a lot of moving pieces in an adventure path or
Sure.
a rule book that's like 300 something pages, right? So that's very different, but I enjoyed that a lot. And of course, when I did get the opportunity after Thirsty got his promotion, to step up and take over his old position, I was really excited. But that's probably been the most crazy thing because now I'm in meetings with, and I try to share this with the team as much as I can, but I'm in meetings with like, Reb, like creative director
Hmm.
from Warframe over at DE. And then I'm talking to people from like from Epic Tellers talking about like making our Starfinder video game. And it's pretty surreal and it's really exciting. But then sometimes it's also really nerve-wracking to be like, oh, and I am in charge of that. And then I do have to be the final person, who approves it. And you know so yeah, it's pretty crazy knowing that I have like this group of really awesome people, but I kind of have to help direct what we're all going to work on because
Right.
everyone has ideas and everybody, everyone here on our Starfinder team is just as hardworking as everyone else, but it's like as the team leader, you're kind of like the captain and you have to pick like, okay, what way are we going to steer the ship? And then they'll
Right.
do what they do and make it really awesome, right? But
Right. But you have
it's
to be
it's
the
a trip.
direction. You have to be the direction
Yeah.
leader. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, it's a wild thing. So you're the creative manager. Is that still specific to Starfinder, or has that changed now that they're more like that they are kind of cross compatible, like, or is it still kind of siloed? You work on Starfinder, you got the Starfinder team, and then the Pathfinder team is doing their deal. Obviously, you guys can talk a little bit more because you can share some rule sets. But like, what's that
Right.
like at this point? You know?
It's still pretty siloed. Like we have our own teams that work on things, and within the teams, we figure out what books people are going to be a lead of or do some work on. However, we do have, like you said, there's a lot more cross pollination because now we work on the same rule set, and it's easy to just say, "Hey, can y'all help us out? Like, do you have somebody who is between projects? Can they come help us with something, or
Hmm.
do you need help?" And we've been the ones. We were the ones helping with the remaster a couple years ago.
Okay.
Now we're the ones who need help or who needed help. We're coming out of it
And
now.
where are they? And where are they? We were here for the
And
remaster.
where are they? No, that's okay. I was
Okay,
I was
kidding.
gonna say though, we've had a couple of designers on the Rules and Lore team, so the Pathfinder team, who have been really, really great. Costin Wilkins Schelling, who's one of the newest designers, other than Aras, I believe. He has been awesome. Like he's done a lot of stuff. He helped us with some starships, some like NPC and enemy starships for Tech Core. He came in and did some other like design work that we needed, like just someone to come in clutch on. And same with Joshua Birdsong. He's another, he's been around a little longer at Paizo, but they were really great. And so, yeah, like there is an ability now to call for help from the other side of the gap. And we will always do that for them too if they ever need it in the future. And they know that. So it's really cool. Like
That's
I've been enjoying it.
y'all call the space between you guys the gap. That's really cool.
Yeah, we do. So I've seen other people say that. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is one of the fringe benefits, of switching to the same core system is being so much more similar in the rules core. Like you can get a lot more help than in the past, I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
Heath, how are you?
Yes, sir.
I just want to check in with you. You doing all right? I know you had a late game last night, so
Yeah, I did. We were playing until about 2 a.m. It's become sort of a tradition every time we do one of these cons. I run a homebrewed one shot in Starfinder First Edition, based on the Monster Hunter video game franchise.
Oh, nice.
We were hunting monsters till about 2 a.m. It was the first time. I've done it probably 5 times now, and this is the first time I've had a party that I have a mechanic where you can trap the monsters instead of kill them. And it was the first time I've had a party that successfully trapped every single monster in their path. So they 100%ed my game last night.
nice. That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I did. I don't want to derail too much, but I wanted to bring up something because Jenny mentioned it. The Warframe collab. How did that come about?
That was really random. I can't really take credit for that one because what ended up happening was I think it was like 2 Gen Cons ago, and Luis Loza, who's one of the Pathfinder creative directors, he was just kind of musing about like, oh, I love playing Warframe, and what if I just reached out to Reb, like their creative director, and said, hey, we're both creative directors, like what if we did something? Like, what if we collabed? And so he just sent this message, probably thinking nothing would ever come of it. And she actually responded to him and was like, yeah, actually, we have Pathfinder fans on staff and we like Paizo games. So yeah, we'd be down. And so then, of course, it makes more sense to do a Starfinder crossover for Warframe. So at that point, Luis kind of stepped out of the way and let me and Thirsty, or he didn't step out of the way. He let me and Thirsty come on board. Now, Luis wrote the adventure, so he did get to stay involved because he was passionate about the idea.
Sure.
It was kind of the thing he helped spearhead and make happen. But after that, we all got on board, and it really was just like he shot his shot. And it hit. It actually hit.
That shows the value of, just give it a shot. Sometimes stuff will work just because you think to put it out there in the universe. And hey, the for Starfinder, like obviously Warframe does make more sense. So that's awesome. The ball kind of bounced to you guys' court, but also Soulframe is coming up, so Pathfinder could end up, do a stage 2 collab with Soulframe.
That'd be so cool. I was about to say, I was watching that some of the trailers and some of the gameplay and like the singing and the bass. It's really cool. So
Soulframe looks sick.
It does, yeah.
I was watching a few videos of people who got to play some early access stuff. And one in particular of the YouTubers that was talking about it was like, just at every turn, I'm surprised. Like they kept getting into stuff and like, oh, what's that over there? And it's like, oh, this is this whole hidden level with like multiple other bosses you wouldn't have known about. So apparently it's just a joy to explore.
Well, we're here to talk about Starfinder 2e, so let's get into it. I want to talk a little bit, I kind of have broken this up into 3 sections. There's the development launch phase, there's the present, the last 6 months of it being a game, and then we'll talk a little bit about its future. But we'll start with the development and launch. And so Starfinder 2e is the newest edition in the Starfinder role-playing game, which is Paizo's science fantasy game. I'm pretty sure everybody watching knows this already, but just in case you didn't know. And so it launched last summer, and it was a big deal because it brought the 2E core system to the Pact Worlds and beyond. So from the announcement of Starfinder 2E in August of 23 to what I assume was a very hectic 2 years that led to its release at Gen Con in July of 25, I'm curious how it was for the team in the last few months leading up to that release.
Pretty hectic. Like we were very busy, very excited. It feels like it was to me anyway, it was like 20 years, but also like 2 days. I don't know, but it was like a few months. Um, yeah, that was, and Ross, you were like not quite on the team for some of that, but you came on board quickly
Yeah.
after. But I know that ever since then, I feel like we've been in kind of that same, we've just been in that mode of like, okay, go, like we're in, we've got to get this done, like get this core game out. We have this vision, we have a plan. We've only got so much resources, like so many people to work on it, but we can get this done. And we've just been kind of soldiering on through that for a while now, and we're kind of now, I mean, I guess we're still talking about the early phase, but in the early phases it was definitely like excitement, let's get in there, let's do this. And just yeah, it was.
I mean, I'm sure there was, but was there any anxiety or nervousness about how it was going to be received? When because 2E, the core system, is a big change and shift of game design perspective from a lot of the D20 systems that came before it. And so how much anxiety did you have about that, or were you just too busy to not have time to be concerned about that? Oh, we got to mute it again.
Muted.
No, okay. If I stop to think about it, I might get anxious about it. But yeah, I think most of us were just too busy to think too much. We definitely did worry though, because everyone on the team is someone who played Starfinder in the past and possibly even wrote for it. I mean, we all did. I think when everyone was hired, had at least one credit in Starfinder, and most of us had more than that. But we all care about it, and we wanted to preserve the flavor and the themes of the game. Like we want it to feel like Starfinder. We want to keep the setting live and keep what makes it fun and different than Pathfinder, but it also, but it's like, how do we thread that needle of then also making it like in some ways the same as Pathfinder to where it can be compatible, at least the basic core rules. And so, yeah, that was kind of anxiety inducing. But I think at a certain point you do just have to go for it. And
Yeah.
luckily, when we did have our play test and we had some early adventures, people who played it mostly had really good feedback. And then they would tell us, oh, hey, you could fix this, or like, I didn't like this part. And then we had things we could target. So then it wasn't just, oh, no, what if they don't like it? It was, well, they like it, but they think this part could be better, or we should make this part different.
Yeah. Well, so during the whole development process, which I'm sure started sometime before the August 23rd or 2023 announcement, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about, and I'm curious too, Ross, as you came in kind of towards the end of that initial cycle,
Yeah.
what were some of the goals and design philosophies that were, let's say, presented to you? Like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And then Jenny, if you can talk about some of those inception points too. It's like, okay, we're making this decision to go to 2E. This is some things that we know we want to have in there. But first, I want to hear from you, Ross, of like, what did they tell you when they're like, all right, you're coming on to be part of our rules team. Here's what you got to go. Here's what you got to do,
I mean, it was a lot of the stuff that I think uh we've also advertised about what Starfinder was going to be, which is, it's cross compatible with Pathfinder, but has a bigger focus on ranged combat, like larger maps, larger, you know, uh, a lot more. I think like the biggest part of what I was focusing on was just like making sure that uh the the ranged focus stays in place both for ancestries and and aliens. So that's like light becomes a lot more viable because now you don't have like a level one monster who doesn't have a ranged option, who can't deal with a player who's like 10 feet above the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I did end up kind of hitting the ground running with another subsystem, so I didn't really focus too much on a lot of the core Starfinder stuff, uh, as much as perhaps I would have if I joined like a year later.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah, when he got hired, basically, he was already playing. Like he knew Starfinder and Pathfinder. Like, he played it and run it, and so he came in, and it was kind of a crash course. And he definitely did work on some of our, the core stuff, like he said, like ancestries, like creatures and things like that, to just get trained. But when he was hired, we even told him, the thing you're going to work on pretty quick is starship combat. So
Oh,
that is, he kind of helped spearhead that. Obviously he didn't have to do it by himself, but we did definitely be like, all right, here, just kick you out the airlock, can you do it? And he
seriously,
did.
that's like not throwing you in the deep end; it is throwing you in the vacuum of space.
Into the vacuum.
So, so primarily Starship Combat. Were you involved with like any other sort of large subsystems like that?
Not subsystems, but like I did most of the design work for tactical starships, and then if there are things that people end up not liking in Galactic Ancestries, you can probably blame me because my hand touched probably like 70% of those.
Okay,
Um, I
noted.
worked
Blame
yeah.
us when this comes out. Okay, got
I
it.
worked on some of the Absalom Station files, but not as much as Galactic Ancestries. I worked on
He also
the
wrote a couple of the Absalom Station
yes, yeah,
articles as well. So his writing, if you want to see examples of not only his design work and him developing text, but his writing, you can also check out when Absalom Station comes out.
Oh,
Nice.
awesome.
yeah,
Nice.
and I also had. I'm very happy with this. I had a pretty heavy hand with the on the Technomancer and Mechanics final versions.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
They are
exciting.
both so good, so cool.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna we're gonna
I'm
dig in on
definitely
that
going to
here
be playing either a mechanic with a Technomancer archetype or a
or
Technomancer
the
with a
other way
mechanic
around.
Mechanic
archetype.
archetype. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to dig in that here in a bit. Jenny, I want to go back to you. And as I said, I'm curious on the inception point. Like, okay, we are doing this. We're moving Starfinder to second edition.
Hmm.
And the conversations around, okay, we want this compatible, but we want it to feel like its own game too. And just like, what were some of like those core design philosophies that kind of guided your ship throughout that process?
So a couple of them are obviously, we want to keep all of the, as much as possible, we're going to keep the core concepts of Starfinder. So we want to keep the core classes, we want to keep the setting, we might just, maybe we'll alter it a little bit, but we didn't want to do a lot of retcons. And this is narrative, but it all feeds into design. So we're like, we don't want to retcon anything. If we're changing something with little, like, with very few exceptions, if we're changing something, we want to show that to y'all in an
And then,
adventure and a setting book, right? Um, and show it evolving. So all of that kind of went into it. So we knew that we needed to have like soldier, envoy, operative, but we also were aware that in this system, technically, you can make a soldier, or sorry, you can make like a fighter
Or
or a rogue,
barbarian.
right?
Yeah.
mhm.
Exactly. And you have to tweak it. Like we wanted it to be where maybe you'd have to tweak it a little bit to just say, a barbarian doesn't have proficiency with guns, but it would make sense that they do. We're gonna let this barbarian be trained in guns. That's fine. Like, we'll treat it, we'll just say, oh, they can use martial weapons. Well, they can use up to martial guns. That's a weapon. Cool. Like,
Hmm.
but we wanted it to work like that with very minimal considerations. Like you just have to think about stuff like that, not convert things, not do math,
Right,
not
right.
change stat blocks. So that was like the core philosophy, was how can we make these things coexist? And so when it came to designing things like the operative, which is really similar to the rogue in its niche, or the soldier, which shares a lot of space with the fighter, or the barbarian, I know some people don't love that we don't have as much melee focused stuff as on those two classes particularly as
Hmm.
Starfinder First Edition did, but that was kind of the reasoning that led us to that place, was that we want ranged to feel, to be more of a thing, but also if you really do want to run in there with your gun or your knives and just like be
Well,
kind of a knife
Solarians still
fighter.
exist. You know,
And
Solarian.
Solarians, you could be a Solarian,
Yeah,
first of all, but also you could be a rogue, right? And you could work with your GM to figure that out. And it doesn't take a lot. So that's why we made some of those choices, was that design philosophy of, we don't want to be redundant. We don't want to just write the fighter in space, the
right.
rogue in space, and sell
Right.
that to the people that are buying our books. Like that was one of our big considerations.
Yeah, I think that that's a wise choice. And even though Soldier looks very different than it did in 1E,
Yeah.
what it does is, I think that it does help define Starfinder as its own game, because it's not just Pathfinder in space. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the fighter that just uses guns. You know what I mean? Like, you
Right.
have a soldier that uses artillery, and it just feels like a very different playstyle, which to me has helped, because I had some worries about Starfinder like holding its own space. But as soon as I saw the classes in the playtest book, I was like, oh, okay. And it like all kind of clicked for me that the classes are really what define the game style, you know,
Yeah.
because that's where all the mechanics are for the bulk of them. And
Mhm.
that really kind of is like, all right. And you could see that design style or philosophy in all the classes, you know, because they were all kind of retooled to be a little bit more unique, or taking their own space, as opposed to just being reprints of another class, you know. So I think that was a wise move, even if it was a little controversial at the beginning, although I think a lot of that
Yeah.
has passed.
Well, and as far as having less classes focused particularly on melee, y'all just aren't trying hard enough. I've already played a melee focused Envoy. Like you can do it. There's ways to play melee. You
And
just
he was
gotta
a
want
beast.
to. Yeah, he
Yeah,
smacked, dude.
that 2E
Beaumont,
Envoy was like wrecking stuff right up in the front line. So
Nice.
Beaumont was a beefy boy.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well that's interesting. I want to say, last thing I want to kind of ask about the launch before we get into the listener questions about this particular subject is, on launch day, it was at Gen Con, so there's a whole other level of stress that comes with Gen Con. You know, there's just everybody is so busy everywhere doing everything, and this is where you guys really kind of had your official launch of the game. We ran into you, I believe, that and you were fielding many people coming at you, asking questions and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff. I just want to know what some of, on that day, how did you feel on release, and what were some of the immediate responses that you got there at Gen Con and online,
Uh,
but like on the release, you know?
it was exciting. I felt excited. The whole team was excited. RS came in a little too late to the company to be one of the Gen Con selections, but he did actually plan to go to Gen Con. So we were like, well, he's going to be there anyway. So he got to hang out with the team and enjoy some of it. But it was
And you
great.
didn't have
Like,
to
we
work.
had
Yeah.
Yeah,
lucky.
you did it the right
Yeah.
way.
Don't get used to that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, if we take you, if you go with the Paizo Blues on, you have to work. Yes, but he got to enjoy his first Gen Con, so that's awesome.
Nice,
But
nice.
but yeah, it was really cool because we had in the hotel in the Omni, they had the like Starship. They had everything. They had set up our diner. They had strawberry machine cake they were serving. It was really cool. I obviously wore my little like pink mech suit costume, and it was
Hmm.
so fun. Like everybody, there was like such a big line the first couple days, and just lots of good positive buzz. And it was just so exciting to see all that. Like, okay, we've been working our butts off on this, like in our little computer chairs and our little offices at home, and especially because we don't have an office now, so we're just like at home. And now we're all here together, and everybody was excited. And I didn't hear a single negative thing at Gen Con.
Yeah,
Nothing at all. And even on
that's
the
awesome.
internet, like at the beginning, everybody was like, "Yay, this is good." And as the slow, a couple complaints or like nitpicks would filter in, I mean, that's gonna happen. That's
Yeah,
fine. But overall, it was very exciting and positive.
that's awesome.
It was
We
good.
We do have some listener questions kind of about this.
Yeah.
Our good friend Porter Paladin, he asked, how did the Paizo crew go about collecting feedback from the community around Starfinder 1E and factoring that into the 2E development? For example, what did you see around Witch Warper, or were there adventure paths that stood out as particularly popular or unpopular that informed your 2E decisions?
Oh yeah. So one of the big things, so whenever we do like a play test for a class, we'll send out those, survey monkey usually will have surveys that everyone fills out and we'll analyze those. And we do truly read through all those, by the way. Or somebody does. But for just figuring out like how did this addition do and what do we want to change, that's more of a okay, we rely on our own experiences and our and anecdotal things, but we also go on the forums and rely
Mm-hmm.
on those anecdotal experiences and check out discords and check out just do some research about what the community conversations are. Luckily, because we had people, me, Thirsty, Jason Keeley is someone who wasn't one of the spearheads, but he was definitely involved with working a little bit on 2E stuff, and he still is. He's definitely always kind of he's always like back in the engine room. We can call on him, if we need him for something. So it was good. The fact that we had people who were involved in the first edition meant that we had already heard and experienced the complaints and the praise for certain things. And we just kind of went through and we also looked at numbers like what sold best,
Mm-hmm.
now, in some ways, like certain things kind of get screwed over like that because Mechageddon is something that has like a cult following, but its numbers aren't as amazing sales wise, just because it was the last AP in the setting
Right.
or in the system, and everybody knew it was going to be the edition's last AP. So that makes it a harder sell, except to the people who really love that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we knew that certain things were really, really popular, like not Tales from the Vast. Horizons of the Vast is always
Mm-hmm.
popular, and I
Yep.
think it's partly it's a great AP, but I think it's also because it's the subject matter. It's an exploration kind of thing.
Right.
Build your colonies, build up your settlements, whatever.
Right. People
Um,
latch on to the like Kingmaker in space moniker that it
exactly.
gets.
Exactly. And then Dead Sons being our first and in
Yeah.
some ways most iconic storyline that ties in so many elements of the setting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is very popular. So we knew, we did have a good sense. So like the Witch Warper 2, when Enhanced came out a few years before we made this decision to go over to start on 2E and to switch over there in terms of our support, we had already identified that there were some issues with Witch Warper. Like at first it was too powerful when we play tested it. A
Are you
Witch
talking
Warper
about the
that was
2E version or
first
the
edition.
first edition version?
One
Okay.
edition, yeah, one Eve Witch Warper. The original Witch Warper at first was like some people thought it was too powerful. So then I believe it was maybe a little overtuned by the designers in an attempt to solve that issue. And then really it ended up being something that was really cool and it had some really cool abilities, but it wasn't some people didn't love it. They're like, oh, I see more potential. And Starfinder Enhanced was a first edition book that we put out to kind of deal with that. And that book also was intended to deal with known sore spots like starship combat being too complicated or lengthy for some folks not loving it. Some folks did, but that's why we had the narrative combat that we introduced in
Right.
in first edition
Mhm.
Enhanced. It's why we did enhanced versions of all the classes. We're like, what things have people complained about, what was not cool enough, not powerful enough, or what are some alternative ideas, and we tried to throw those in there. So we kind of already had that roadmap because we did enhance like only a couple of years before we
Right.
started working on 2E. We real honestly, in terms of book life cycles, we had just finished Enhanced, and it was kind of like an eye roll because it's like, oh my god, we just did this.
Now we got to do this all over again.
But it's okay. But then we knew where to start. So like that was where we started there. So to answer that question in a long-winded way, it's just because we pay attention, and it's why you see us lurking, or you'll see me lurking, and probably now are us lurking on your Discord or in Reddit, or in in the forums, because that's where you find what's actually happening. People talk
Yeah.
about their games. They're like, how did y'all, can you understand this? I don't know what the heck how does this work? And that's how we know, oh shit, that wasn't good. Let's fix that. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, we've I know we're talking about 2E broadly here, but we are definitely 1E players at our when we started this and we love 1E, we are very much looking forward to moving to 2E, but all of our shows are currently finishing up some 1E APs, and we've been using enhanced, and
Yeah.
enhanced is such, I mean, it really just like elevates the whole edition. Like
Yeah.
we've really loved what Enhanced offered, particularly the resolve spenders, and then the classes that were kind of struggling in 1E all felt like Witch Warper is a much it plays like you want it to play now, and so it then honestly Enhanced is what made me feel secure in the switch to 2E because of how well that book was designed. You could tell that people that were behind it loved the game in the setting, and so it just helped generate some goodwill and trust going into 2E. So I'm glad that that's what you mentioned.
Hey, could I get the hookup on like that very original version of Witch Warper? Could you just like slide me the one that's too powerful? I want to try that out.
You could probably still find it. It was the playtest. So if you look it up,
Oh,
I
okay.
think you could probably find the rules. I know they exist somewhere online
Somebody's
still, I'm
got it somewhere.
sure.
Yeah.
I have it somewhere. I could look for it if you really want it. But yeah, it
I'll,
is it I had a friend of mine, and if I'm repeating myself to y'all, I'm sorry because I have told this story before,
uh,
but a friend of mine was in a game with me with Thirsty, who was our GM, and he was playing a Technomancer, and he decided to switch to a Witch Warper when that playtest came out because he was like, "This is actually what I wanted to play the whole
right.
time. I
Hmm.
just couldn't." And so
Hmm.
Thirsty was like, "Okay, so he did this whole thing, like we made it happen in game. It wasn't off screen. It was like his character touched this like orrery that transported him to
Hmm.
another reality, and then the person that came
As
back was
Witch
the Witch
Warpers do.
Warper."
Yeah, as Witch Warpers
Exactly. So
do.
like
Yeah.
the Technomancer got stuck in another reality. The Witch Warper came to our reality, and nobody ever really knew, right? So it was like, okay, so that's what happened. But he played this character to a point that it was ridiculous. Like it was absolutely broken. This is a person who's known for breaking games, who's known for power gaming, also great role player. But he just went ham, and Thirsty just kept being like, oh my god, because the original Witch Warper had all this bullshit where the GM had to like re-roll, or you could just tell the GM like,
He
like
was
you
just
can't do
it like
that.
trolled the
Like,
GM.
yes,
Yeah.
and so he trolled him like to hell and back, and it was great. But then Thirsty was just like, "Hey, Owen," because at the time Owen was one of the designers on Starfinder at Paizo,
Yeah.
and before he left, and he was like, "Owen, I think this is too much." And Owen and Joe were like, "Maybe you're right." And again, no shade on them at all, but I do think that there was maybe we went a little too far to try to stop it from being OP because sometimes it is fun to let something be a little bit
Hmm.
ridiculous.
Right.
But it's okay. But then I feel like Enhanced did bring it back. Enhanced, we tried to bring, or they, because I only worked a little bit on Enhanced really,
Hmm.
but that was more Joe and Keeley and Co. But like they really worked hard to get those classes back to get Witch Warper especially back to some of that feel that it had. And they did pretty good on it, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
When
that was original Witch Warper.
it was a simple but effective solution as well, making it to where your class abilities just have a separate pool of spell slots.
Yeah.
Because I think the problem a lot of people had was like these things are
Yeah.
cool and they can
I'm
be useful, but the
fighting with
value of
myself.
them,
Yeah.
yeah, like do I want to spend a spell slot on it?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that
Okay.
was hard.
We got another question. This one comes from Cosma. Cosma asks, which class was the most challenging to rework for 2E?
Okay. I think probably Technomancer.
Okay.
And RS might
Okay.
be able to talk about this too, because he was involved with Technomancer, and y'all haven't even seen the
The
final
final, right,
Technomancer.
right.
Yeah.
Y'all have
Nope.
just seen the playtest version. But
Yeah, what was
um,
the difficulties with that one?
so to me, Technomancer, so this is something that we all met as a team because we were like, okay, it's going to be really easy for Technomancer to just be, and same with Witchwarper, to just be like a wizard in space. We
Right.
didn't want Witchwarper has its own thing. He's already got like the quantum, like he can already do all this quantum stuff. It's like really easy to just be like, oh, we'll make like a quantum field or a quantum pulse. That's cool. We can do some reality warping powers, some rerolls. But for Technomancer, it's like, well, we want this to interact with tech. But otherwise, they're just a magic. They're just a caster, and I
They're
feel
just a
like
spell book, you know.
yeah, and the 1E Technomancer was cool, but I do feel like the basic, when you really think about it, the basic build of that is it's a space wizard. It's a tech space wizard, and that's fine, but we really wanted to make sure that since we have to share the system with wizards, technically, we don't want it to be that way. So I think that was the hardest one because we really wanted to make sure, okay, how is this different? How does this interact with tech? And also, how do we not make this like really complicated? And that was hard, I think. And I think though that the final version we have, the playtest was good. It had definitely some issues that we kind of spotted. We were kind of apprehensive about, and the community spotted. It had some great points. But at this point, I think we've really fine-tuned it, and I'm excited to show y'all.
Right. And you don't want it to just be that effectively it's really just doing magic and the tech is just a coat of paint.
Yeah.
Like
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Technomancer players are going to be very happy with the changes. Their action economy is going to be a lot nicer and more relaxed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to that. So we're 6 months into its cycle now, right? It's came out, it's just about 6 months after its release.
Yeah, I guess so. It feels so much longer because we've been working on it
Right.
for
It's
longer
been
than that.
84 years.
Yes, it really has.
So the three core books have been released. You have your
Yeah.
player core, your GM core, your alien core, which is like kind of like you have those, you can play anything you want to, right? Obviously, everything else is about expansion and that kind of stuff. So how are you feeling? And there's been a couple adventures. You've had the Murder at Absalom Station and the Grave Worlds, and coming up is Tales from the Vast. How are you feeling about the current state of Starfinder 2E and its player base? Is it where you expected it to be at this juncture? Where, as of right now, how are you feeling about the health and position of the system?
I feel good about it. We're not quite done though, because we do technically we have a fourth core book. So the tech core book that's coming out, that will have like tactical starship combat. It'll have
Okay.
Technomancer and mechanic in it.
Ooh.
It'll also have more archetypes, more gear. So a lot of the holes that we didn't fill in with like the other core books are going to be there. But I
Awesome.
feel good. I feel like we have seen there's been a resurgence of people playing. I do feel like I said, all the reception has been positive, though I do think some folks are holding back a little from getting fully on board into 2E just because they're either like you finishing up 1E campaigns that take a couple years sometimes to play. Most of the time, let's be real. Or they are waiting to fully get invested when Tech Core drops because people are like, well, where are those two classes? Where's the Technomancer? Where's the mechanic? And like, well, I want to be in a starship. Like, I want rules.
Yeah.
I don't want just a hazard starship. I want combat. And so I think I'm hoping that that'll be like what rounds it out. But health wise, it's good. Like we're seeing a good reception. I think I would love to have more content, but it's just with a small team, we just kind of have to churn it out as we can. But I think we're building up to having like a very healthy little system that people can play.
Yeah, I mean, so you do have Galactic Ancestries coming out very soon.
Yes.
And obviously, this is to help further that Cantina vibe that so many of us love about Starfinder. But that being said, on launch, it already felt like we had a lot more options than we expected, and a lot of that is due to the fact that Starfinder is compatible with Pathfinder, so all those pre-existing ancestries are there.
Yeah.
What do you think? That being said, there was some consternation about the cross compatibility there, and you kind of already touched on this, but you mentioned that that ranged combat was one of the big kind of defining features that sets it apart in gameplay. What aspects of the crossover have surprised you and like, okay, this is actually working a lot better or worse than we thought it might?
I would say like, well, ranged combat is one thing that's really hard to make everybody happy with because the way it already works, we're fine with. We know it works well. Whenever you're in range, when you're at range, you're saving yourself from being hit by melee attacks, which depending on the enemy can be scarier. Although when your enemy has a gun too, you also, there's that to consider.
Yeah.
But you can take cover, and there's other options. So that's one that is kind of hard because I know some people feel like, well, I should be able to add my dex, or I should be able to add something to my ranged attack to the damage. And that's why there are some cases that we have like certain feats or certain archetypes where it's like, oh, you can add your intelligence modifier. If that isn't out already, that's in a book that's coming. My brain is like so scrambled with everything. I know that exists somewhere in the text that we have done that is coming. So yeah, that was one. The ranged meta, right? It's just, but I feel like it's about how you play the game. And if you want it to work, if you want it to be ranged meta, then that's great. But if you don't want it to be that way, like again, I guess you can just bring out some of the Pathfinder classes and just do it. Make yourself happy that way. But
so with all the pre-existing ancestries, right? I know that there's been some questions from the player base about are you guys looking at adding some ancestry feats that bring some Pathfinder ancestries into the Starfinder setting, like to bring it into the more futuristic technological space, like kind of a splat book to add on to like dwarfs. Well, okay, but here's some ancestry feats that we get because I'm mining in space as opposed to mining on Galarian.
Russ, do you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure. I'll
'Cause I
take that
think
as permission to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there are a bunch of Pathfinder ancestries that are coming to Starfinder in an official capacity. In the book that I assume everyone it can probably guess,
Yes, it
in
has been
Galactic
announced. Yeah.
Ancestries. Galactic Ancestries is going to have a lot of Pathfinder options, a lot of Starfinder 1E options, and a couple of new options. I am so excited for Galactic Ancestries. I'm going to be playing one of the ancestries that I know we haven't talked about. And probably all my characters are gonna be that ancestry because they're really, really adorable and awesome.
Which
But
one is it? You can say it. You can say it.
okay,
I was
it's the
gonna-
Bruneri.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Okay.
the otters come to Tui.
They're
Let's
coming
go.
back.
And they're
Yay.
very wholesome, very fun. I know some of my friends have been like, hey, you should do this ancestry. You should do this ancestry because they want to play it. And
Right.
Right.
if they're watching, good news. Those are also coming in, and they're also really good.
Nice.
But yeah, dwarves, elves. I think leshies as well are going to be
Okay.
showing up.
Yes.
There's probably a handful more. We're not getting everything. Hobbits aren't going to be there.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
Well, I'm out.
Automatons aren't
I
there.
feel like they would
It's very
be,
difficult
honestly,
to
I feel
play
like
the niche
they'd be
of a-
figurines. Sorry, go on.
figurines. Oh, but yeah, it's Galactic Ancestries has a lot of options.
It does have
Yeah.
Novians as well. I'm looking at
Those are
chat,
the little
and
sun
yes.
creatures, right?
Yeah, the
Yes.
little mini suns.
Yeah.
Or black holes, yes.
Or
Because
black
like
holes,
a
depending on-
Solarian, they can
yeah.
have a different attunement, yeah.
Okay. So That was actually a listener question we had from Random One about what ancestry class are you most excited to bring to 2E. Ross, you said the binary, so that's awesome. Jenny, do you have one that you're excited about?
Other than all of them, I mean all of them really. I'm excited though. I'll just say one. Talfi is one I'm really excited about because if you are a 1E player who read Near Space, you might remember that that is one of the ancestries that or species that was introduced in Gaviniska, the Vescarium system, that
Hmm.
never got stats. Like it was one of those. There were like five species by the end of SF1 that we had talked about that never got stats. And I made Talfi up when I wrote that article about Vesk 5. And I was just like, oh, they're just like little like Solarian mole people. I bet they're real cute, but we never really got art or they were just kind of a name drop. And we
Yeah.
do that a lot because especially with as little text as we really do get, like we only have so many opportunities to like pack this info in and tell you these stories. But we try sometimes to do a name drop because it's fun to see what people latch onto. And then later we might have plans for that. But if it turns out people love it and they really are like, what is a Talfi? Oh my God, what are they like? Then we can release that and it's really cool and people love that. And it's like gratifying for them versus if they don't latch onto it, we can just ignore it and not
Hmm.
focus there.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you put some crumbs out and see what gets nibbled on, that's great.
exactly.
Yeah.
But Talfi are in there, so they're finally those babies are going to get actual stats. I'm also really excited because you can play an Oracoran now, and they get playable roles in Galactic Ancestry. So if you want to be a an eldritch weird monster that like sips on ichor from Octurne and has been recently displaced by some very explosive events,
Yeah.
you can do that
If
very
you,
And
soon.
why wouldn't you want to
if
be that?
if you
Why wouldn't you?
if you want to get your Stranger Things on,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Kind of staying on Galactic Ancestries, Sunny asked, all right, are you bringing in Greys? I love those classic aliens. Where are the Greys? Can you
I
talk
don't,
about Greys?
not yet.
Not yet.
That they
Okay.
are not one that we have out yet, but we do have that as a list on our list of ones that we know are really, really popular, especially with our community. I mean, Greys are definitely a classic alien. We're focusing right now mostly on things that we feel are uniquely Starfinder, Paizo IP,
Hmm.
even if they're based on other stuff or like if they originally came from something else. Like obviously Orocorans come out of like, the mythos, like Lovecraftian type horror,
hmm
and they're not called Orocorans in any novel. It's just we made that up. But it's not a totally original
no,
idea. But Greys are something that I feel like if and when we do them, I really want to make sure that we do them in a way that not only expresses all because they are very classic and they're very iconic, and I want to make sure that we don't do them wrong, like that we really make them cool and give the fantasy that someone who wants to play a gray would want. Because like it's got to be done right, but I also want to make sure we do it in ways that really vibes with our setting. And yes, grays exist in 1E. They are known to exist, but I really want to make sure it's at the right time. So they
Yeah.
are not off the table. We just haven't done them in a book I can talk about yet.
well,
Well,
that would
Sorry.
also be disingenuous. It would not be true to who the Greys are for them to be
It's true.
out and open and in the forefront.
yeah.
They're behind the
It's true.
scenes.
I mean, I was going to say, yeah, like I feel like there are some species that you guys want to hold on to use as villains for
Right.
adventures and stuff like that, and like keep the mystery around them as something to explore in an adventure path. So I think that makes sense to me there. One last question as we're talking about like the current state of Starfinder. Our friend Tony, otherwise known as McAwesome, has asked, what is the biggest revelation that you've had in the last 6 months about designing content for Starfinder 2? Is there anything that changed your design philosophy based on the player feedback now that it's out? I mean, I know the playtest year was probably where most of that happened, your response to player feedback because you were soliciting it and getting a trove of it. But do you guys continue, like you said, you're like checking out Reddit and other forums and stuff. Are you like using that as a source of inspiration to make changes? Has anything been like, oh, we really got to change how we think about this because of how it's being received?
There's a few things like that I just probably aren't popping off the top of my head, but one that is right that I'm thinking of right now is just the way that we wrote a lot of the hazards in the playtest adventures. Because I've worked on design, like a lot of player facing rules, especially with our core books. But typically, I do like overall creative direction, but also adventures and setting. So I think about that a lot more. Like that sticks in my mind because I tend to
Mhm.
do more of it on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
But um, in Empires Devoured and in A Cosmic Birthday, but especially Empires Devoured, there were some hazards that were too hard. And
Mm,
it's one thing to have a challenging hazard, especially at a higher level, but there were several that required like six successes, or like four successes to shut down. And when you think about it, sometimes when you're developing, we do play testing. We don't always play test every encounter that's in an
mm-hmm.
adventure.
Right.
But you get to a point where you kind of know what to look for, and mistakes get made, of course. But like looking at those hazards, sometimes it's really easy to not, because I'm the person who developed that. Thirsty wrote it, but when I was looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, it should be hard. That'll be fine. But in my mind, I wasn't really thinking out because I wasn't as used to doing 2E for Pathfinder or Starfinder at the time, was that each of those successes, that's not one check. What is a check, but it's a two action activity. So like
Mm,
that takes up your whole turn. Basically, if you wanted to shut down that trap, okay, I'm going to disable the trap. Well, I may not even do it. I might roll bad, right? But
and I
I
can't
roll
even roll
for it.
again. Yeah.
I can't even try again this round. Maybe I can move. Maybe I can take a pot shot. Maybe I can grab an item out. But like, what else am I going to really do? And then if there's six successes, that means that has to happen like six times. So like, if you have a four-player party, you can't even really do it if everyone focuses on it, which they won't. You can't do it until like two or three rounds anyway. So
Right. Even if you
it
were
was
perfect.
exactly, and that I think was too much because the challengingness, it was already challenging enough based on DC and damage alone, but that was too hard. And I saw that in some forums, and I saw people saying like, "Oh my God, this was like way too much," and that was one that I think I actually went in and made a comment on a certain thread about it. But that is something that it's just easy to not think about when you're doing a final check when you're deving
Right.
it, but then when you're GMing it, it's like, oh my God, this is gonna take forever and they're gonna die.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like you got to do that, but that's like first you've got to figure out what those checks are, right? You've got to spend some time
Right.
like figuring out what you're supposed to be doing, what puzzle you're trying to be solving in a hazard, So I could see that. All right, we're at an hour. We got a little bit more to go. You guys good to hang out for a little bit more? I know you got a game to get to, Ross, so we'll get you there. But let's talk about the future a little bit. I think that's what a lot of people are curious about.
Yeah.
It's clear that y'all's release schedule has been a little slower, but a lot more deliberate for Starfinder 2E. Like we're not getting stuff at a high rate, but everything is being done with intent, and like we're going to make sure that this comes out the way we want it to come out. And as you said, Tech Core is going to be kind of the final piece that gets everything out and firmly in place. So then, can you talk a little bit about the decisions around determining the pace of which you release content? Is it strictly just a capacity issue, or is there more to it than that?
There's more to it. A lot of it is capacity, but of course, we could also like Paizo could make a decision to change like staffing of the team or whatever. Like there's decisions that could be made, right? But mostly it's deciding what we think the community has an appetite for, and also trying to keep, it's like you don't want to go too long without a book releasing. However, if we
Mm,
don't have the resources and we're not ready to release a book, what are we gonna do? So In terms of like the rate of release, it tends to be capacity related, but in terms of when we release what, that is something that's very targeted. It's something that, it starts with like the leadership team. So Eric and Thirsty and of course Jim, like our actual like finance people are like, okay, we need to have like this much money needs to come in for this brand this year. So how do we make that happen? We need this many products. And so then Eric and Thirsty might say, okay, like come to me and the team and be like, all right, if we're gonna do two rules books this year, what should we do? What's important? And sometimes that's a thing that we get to determine. Sometimes we get kind of a general order of like, it needs to be an equipment book or it needs to be an ancestry book. Okay, cool. But we have creativity or we have like creative control from there. So it's a combination of capacity and just like decisions made by leadership about the pacing and also by us about like the order in which we want to release things. And obviously, we started with core stuff. We're releasing those as fast as we can, and then we know that we want to have adventures. We need to have adventures so you can't actually play with the core stuff. And then once we have that, we can start getting into auxiliary books. So that's where we're at.
A lot of moving parts.
It's a lot, yes.
Yeah.
It might seem. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it might seem slow to y'all, and it is a slow release, but like internally, it doesn't seem like that because we do have so many plans for things that are coming. So while it is a slower release, it is something that we do take a lot of time to think about. A lot of people work on it. Somebody writes the actual words, but then several people on staff, like at least probably a designer and a dev, if not more, look at it. And then like an editor looks at it and it gets some kind of approval in the end. So these are things that are very deliberate and yeah, mistakes happen, but like we do really take our time to try to fine tune and like craft this for you. So I feel like more and more what we're getting to in reality is that like if you want something fast, I guess go get ChatGPT to shit out something that sucks.
Yeah.
But if you want something good, you're gonna have to wait a few months or a year. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I
that's
think to the intent of Adam's question,
yeah.
the good thing is, and the thing that we're excited about and appreciative of is just the intentionality of it and the feeling that we can get that like you guys care so much about this and so that the way that you're releasing things is very it's not willy-nilly, it's not absent-minded.
No.
So the intentionality is much appreciated. Adam, we're having a little bit of tech issue. I believe Adam's New Orleans internet strikes again.
Yep.
No.
Which it was funny. He froze like on the thinker, So like for a good while, I was like, man, he is really considering everything that is said here.
He's got a really good thinking face.
He does, and I was like, man, he is really, really locked in. It's like,
Pondering.
oh no, he's frozen.
No.
Okay. Well, let's see. Continuing the questions about the future. We know that a lot of people are hungry for a big chunky new Starfinder second edition adventure path. So could you tell us a little bit about Guild of the Grave World and Tales from the Vast? What are sort of the elevator pitches for those adventures, if anyone hasn't heard of them or isn't familiar with them?
Guild of the Grave World it starts at first level, goes through, I think it's fifth level, and you start out, this might be familiar to some 1E people, but you start out just working for a dwarven mining conglomerate. Like you're just working for this mining company and they're like, hey, can you go check something out for us? Turns out to be, there's some weird mysteries going on and you end up kind of caught up and having to go to Eox, the Grave World, which is why it's called that. That is an undead planet for those who are not familiar with it. It is run by undead. It is a radioactive, like toxic world. It's very dangerous outside of the settlements that they have, the few settlements that cater to the living because of an ancient accident of some kind that happened on this planet. And so this adventure allows you to go visit that place. It actually allows you to uncover the secrets of what happened in that ancient cataclysm, why the planet is messed up, why the undead exist,
Oh, that's cool.
how.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's some very big lore reveals by the end. There's also some lore reveals about Zoe, who is our undead media mogul
Zoe!
celebrity.
Uh,
Zoe, yeah. If you like Zoe, he is there.
Exclamation point required in the
Yes.
spelling of
Yes.
that name.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to derail too much, but it's too good not to bring up. One of the things I love about these games is the happy little accidents of the way that characters that you play and like lore and releases and stuff all kind of overlap and end up being just like, oh wow, like that was unexpectedly relevant. So Guilt of the Grave World got announced and we were doing Cosmic Birthday. We were playing our Jason, a good friend, was running us through Guilt of the Grave World, and I had just without knowing anything about Guilt of the Grave World, I mentioned earlier my melee envoy Beaumont. I created him, and he was a Lashunta, but my whole idea was, what if a Lashunta was a dwarf? And so he had basically been adopted by a dwarven clan who were part of Ulrika clan holdings. And so it just very neatly tied into the setup of Guilt of the Grave World. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to bring him back and do Guilt of the Grave World.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm excited too because right now, Guild of the Grave World is out, but soon Galactic Ancestries will be out, which will give you more dwarf options. So if you want to be a dwarf when you play it, or if you just want to have that option on the table, that's coming. So yes, if you like Eox, Zoe, if you want to know deep lore about the Pact Worlds, check out Guild of the Grave World. It's also
and dwarves.
It's very fun. And dwarves, yes, there is some dwarf deep lore there too. And if you want to meet dwarves and get your rock and stone on, then play that game.
I'm so glad you said it.
Oh yeah, there were many jokes.
I was gonna
about
have
that.
to if you didn't. So what about Tales from the Vast?
Tales from the Vast is a compilation. So this one, rather than being one book that is a long adventure that's going to take you through several parts and get your character leveling up, doing the same story, it's just kind of like episodes. So it's kind of like a Star Trek thing where, one adventure, you're going to go explore a planet that nobody, that you don't know if it's inhabited or not, and nobody from the Pact Worlds has been to. In another one, you're going to help a planet that's being invaded by Aslanti forces, and you're going to get to punch some space Nazis. In another adventure, you're going to go to a haunted drift stop, which is like a truck stop in space. That idea has been floating around for so long. Me and Thirsty have wanted to make the Haunted Bucky's adventure for so effing long.
That's so great.
And it's in there, so you have to play it. So Tales from the Vast is just it's Tales from the Vast. It's here's some weird and cool, wacky things and scary things that could happen to a crew out in deep space in Starfinder. So it covers a lot of different genres and themes. You start out at first level. Hold on. Actually, double check about Tales from the Vast because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, no, I don't think that's where you start. Unfortunately, my mind is just constantly full of the multiverse, so I have to double check these things so that I'm not telling you lies here.
That's just the gap interfering with information we're not supposed to be revealing.
It really is. No, I wasn't lying. Yeah. It's going to take you through 1st through 7th levels. Each adventure, there's 4 adventures. Each one covers 2 levels of play. So you could just play them back to back. But again, there's not the interlocking piece to it would be, and there's some advice for GMs and players on this, you're all working for the Starfinder Society, or you're all Xeno Wardens, and you're the people they send in to help the environment, right? Or protect the environment, or you're all, I don't know, you're all you work for Abadar Corp, and they're sending you to start new branches, new franchises on these planets, right?
Ulrika clan holdings.
Exactly, and you're out there mining and looking for mining places. So you can be you pick one of these essentially and you can play all the way through, or you can just throw these into another campaign because they are really kind of episodic and you don't have to play one to play the others.
Right. Sort of
So
just use them in a more modular way.
exactly. But if you do want to just go first through seventh level, you can. Or if you play Guilt of the Grave World and you're like, I'm at fifth level, we need one more adventure, then you can just go punch some space Nazis right after that.
Right.
The last adventure. So
I like the idea of that, the sort of like Tales from the Crypt vibe of the like anthology adventures, getting into some
yeah.
odd and spooky things. Very cool. Well, that leads us into the big question. Are you able to discuss what future plans there are for adventure content for Starfinder Second Edition? Can we expect a large epic campaign, or is there a different mode in mind for how you're going to release adventures moving forward in Starfinder Second Edition?
I can't tell you any titles, but we do have more adventures coming. We have a couple that are planned that are more epic scale adventures. There's one that I believe is a 1 through 6, and there's one, I think it's a 1 through 10.
Okay.
There's going to be probably more higher levels later. We want to get some lower levels out first because that tends to be what people buy
Yeah.
more and it's what people
Sure.
play more. And
As you
then
do.
once they've played that, we can get them into the higher level or the stuff that goes up to 20. I would love to do some more 1 to 20 adventures, but they are they're big and
That's
it's
an
like
investment.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's an investment. So
Yeah.
we need the right idea, we need the right time where we've got the right people to be able to work on it. So that's not quite yet, but we do have some thoughts there. But there are some big epic adventures coming out. We've also got some more compilations coming out, like the anthology Tales from the Vast I mentioned. We have a couple more on the docket that are going to have like 4 to 6 shorter adventures that can tie together but don't have to, that you can just use as episodes or sprinkle in. So we have a lot coming on, and of course, Starfinder Society has. We just finished like our big outlining work on our next season of Starfinder Society,
nice.
which is really very exciting. So there's going to be tons of adventures. Moving forward, we are going to do what we've been doing with what we did with Scoured Stars, where we adapted
Unpackaging
that.
them?
Yeah. Our idea is to take the season and just kind of package it all together as an AP, take like some back matter, like all the boons that you're going to be able to get, and just have that as something that you can buy as a collector's item, or that people who don't play org play, taking the org play elements out of it and making it more like an
Here's
AP
the story.
format.
Yeah, here's the story
See,
that happened.
Yeah.
that season. Yeah.
So
That's such a smart move. I don't get the opportunity to do much organized play, right? Other than for things like STF Con, but like
right.
that allows people who don't have a lot of access to organized play to engage with that story, because there is a through line and a story to each of those seasons that a lot of people otherwise have no way to experience. So I love that move. I think it's very smart.
Yeah, thank you. And it's and typically in every season there's what we call the meta plot adventures that are this is the story of the season, and then there's extras. So there's typically little episodes like this is just a silly one-off, or it's a scary one-off, and it has nothing really to do with the plot. It's just something else that's happening. And so what we would do with these anthologies, like Scoured Stars had dozens of adventures. It spanned 2 years
long.
of
Yeah.
play. But we didn't put all that in the book. We just took, Thirsty went through and selected the things these are the most important. These are all the meta plot adventures that are building the plot up and getting to the final point of the adventure. And those are what were adapted together. And so that's what we'll be doing in the future. And I'm really excited to see how those sell, how those are received, because I also think it's a really good idea. Like some people just don't play org play for whatever reason, but the story's perfectly good.
Well, I think a lot of it
Good.
comes down to so many people have their group, right? So they're not necessarily going to game stores to find people to play with. I mean, for us, we've been playing with each other for 8-9 years, and like whatever we're going to play together. So like having an opportunity to play some of that org play stuff is really cool, because I feel like there's so much of the setting gets affected by the org stories, the org
Oh
play
yeah.
stories, and so it'd be cool to get into that kind of stuff. So, and to tie that kind of back to your compilation adventures, this question just came to me, so I could be totally wrong here, but is the idea of kind of bringing more compilation style adventure books, is that at all impacted or a result of the kind of expansive boom of actual play podcasts? Like, is it like, okay, there's all these podcasts that are doing episodic work. Like, are we writing to that, or is it just kind of a synchronicity thing that just happens that way, or what?
Um, I think it's always like I've been saying, it's both, it's everything. But a few years ago, oh God, it's one of those things where I feel like it was 10 years ago, but it was probably only three. Back before before Thirsty took over the Starfinder team, he very briefly moved on from being in charge of org play to also being in charge of like digital adventures, which was
Hmm.
what we called this for a brief time. And the digital adventures were what started, that was our first, Paizo's first attempt at these one shots. These like adventure in a box is what we have now. Like that was the first attempt. Now we have these like adventure nights like Dawn of the Frogs and Murder in Metal City. So we've been iterating on that format, but it started in part because yes, we saw all of these actual plays were popping up, and that was in the time when Critical Role was like really like had really spun up as being super popular. Like they
Mm,
obviously still are, but it was like the first like oh my
it's kind
god,
of peak
Critical
of it, yeah.
Role.
Hmm.
Yeah, not like now they just exist. They're like a monolith that we all know is there, right?
Hmm.
So that was definitely an attempt to make content for that people would be able to just use, whether it was big productions or just like y'all, like people that are doing it for fun or doing it for just a
Hmm.
little on the side. And we've kept that going. So we've kept doing those, but it also just works because with sci-fi especially, so many things like episodic, that format goes really well. Like if you look at Star Trek or
Hmm.
any of the like Farscape, like those types of shows where yes, there's a plot, but there's also just the planet of the week, or here's what alien is invading this
Hmm.
time. And so that's what we want to do because I like watching those shows. I like it when I see the same characters just in different situations that aren't
Right.
necessarily connected. So you'd want to do that with your characters too,
Yeah,
because
Right.
I do.
Star
So
Trek vibe, or so many other
yeah.
shows that are that episodic format. What I'm hearing, and I may be wrong, but it sounds like you're saying that you wrote Tales from the Vast for STF. You wrote it for us, right?
Yeah,
That's
totally.
what you're
It's for
saying.
y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's custom made.
Um,
Y'all
all
should
right.
play it though. It's gonna be good.
All right. Well, we probably will at some point at least play a couple adventures from it, just to like, because we want to get into some 2E. We played a Cosmic Birthday, which was fun, and we're trying to get back into it. We've got some listener questions about the future. So Stormson asks, besides the Technomancer and Mechanic, are there any new details that you guys can talk about in the Tech Core book that's coming out? You already mentioned that Starship Combat in a mechanic sense is coming to it. That's very exciting to me. So you want to talk a little bit about that, Russ?
Sure. Jenny, please stop me
I
if
will.
I end up going too far. But yeah, Starship Combat. A lot of my inspiration for the design for that, at least like in the initial stages, was a video game called FTL, Faster Than Light, where you're controlling the crew of a starship and they have to run around the starship and uh tend to certain parts of it. Uh, and so a lot of that it influenced how I was designing it, and it's very much still Starfinder. It's designed in a way that players, like a GM who has read the rules for Tactical Starship Combat, can sit down a bunch of players and like halfway through the session be like, oh, the planet is collapsing. There's a starship here. You guys probably want to get in the starship and leave, right? And they can, and by just giving out like a piece of paper with what they can do on it, they can start playing while still retaining a level of complexity that people would that the Starship Fantasy um people expect from starships. Like you need to be like flipping switches and doing all those like intricate things.
Right.
Uh,
Tweaking
we
wires and yeah.
exactly like we did a lot of internal playtesting with a lot of people. We're not doing a public playtest, but I it's been through quite a few iterations. I'm very happy with where it is right now. The players that I've had and that other playtesting GMs have had have generally been happy with it as well, so I'm optimistic. Um, yeah, that's
All right.
uh
Faster than light added to Steam wish list.
it's very good. It's another this is kind of a random aside, but they also made Into the Breach, which is another really good like strategy mecha game.
All
Okay.
right.
What
Adding
other kind of
another
things
one.
do we think we'll be seeing in Tech Core? So you got the two classes. We got Starship Combat,
Archetypes, feats, weapons.
some gear.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You have some
Starships is a
ancestors too.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Oh
Go.
yeah,
okay.
some very, very
Go for it.
highly demanded ancestries. But
Ooh.
Starships is a big section of it. Clods are a big section of it, but there are also some really, really cool archetypes that are enhancing some of the niches that may not have seen as much love,
Mm-hmm.
uh, as like a mechanical add-ons at least.
Hmm.
Um, there's some really cool weapons, really cool feats, really cool new spells with some very specific flavor that that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. That also fit quite well with some of the ancestries that are coming out. Um, and I think that's more or less what I've I've looked at.
I mean, that's
Uh,
a pretty juicy chunk
It's
of
a
a book
lot.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Araz, being that you're relatively new to the whole
yes.
Starfinder 2E team, I was curious. I was going to ask this like more broadly, but specifically, have you, knowing that you have worked on Starship Combat and subsystems and things like that, has there been like one subsystem game aspect, just a piece of like technical game stuff that was like particularly a bugaboo or like tricky or presented any kind of problems?
Um, I mean, I don't know if there's anything super specific. There's, it was a learning process for me, like doing development passes on existing work and all that
Mm.
stuff. But what I've been trying to rein in is my uh, home GM tendencies, which is to make like super overcomplicated stuff that is fine to be overcomplicated because I'm the one running it and I'm the one who
Right.
wrote it. So I know it inside and out. So it's like a lot of my boss monsters will like create these areas that have like custom conditions, like stacks of like really evocatively named like briars of shadow or whatever, right? And then
It's like
they
Dark
consume this
Souls, Final
Yeah.
Fantasy
like
shit. Yeah.
very MMO in a lot of ways. Like
Yes.
they'll create zones and like in 3 turns it's gonna explode, whatever.
But
And it's like I need to rein in some of that like over designing tendencies I have.
uh-huh.
But I think I've gotten better at that. Um, uh, and yeah, I've definitely learned to make simple and elegant designs more than I used to.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of like one pain point that I've improved in, I
Uh,
guess.
okay. Follow-up question. How soon can you GM a game for me and Zach to play in? Because that sounds right up
What
our
do you
alley.
have time tonight?
I wish
But
I
yeah,
did. I'm
once
running in
once
a
once
Pathfinder adventure.
wow. Wow. But yeah, I'm very excited for the Starfinder Foundry to be ready and out.
Yeah.
Folks are working so hard on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I've yeah. I'm very excited to get our team game back up and running. Um,
Yeah, we can
I
actually do
just
that soon.
yeah.
Now that we're not
Well, we
crunched.
need the yeah. But I just love playing Starfinder.
Yeah,
I
I
I
heard
I
don't
that.
feel
play
you.
as much as I run it, but actually this afternoon I'm going to be playing the Warframe
Oh man,
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Frame
cool.
I
adventure.
want to play that so bad. That you
It's
bring up an
fun.
interesting topic, the idea of you guys, the developers and stuff, playing the games behind the scenes like just for fun, right?
And we
And
get to play the mechanic and
Yeah,
technomancer.
right, yeah, the
I
fringe
know.
benefits, you can play everything early, but
Yeah.
like has with the release schedule and putting out a whole new system, has that cut in? Like, have you guys been able to play at all since the release? Like your behind the scenes games, or is it
So
like we're just waiting to get to a point where we can again?
uh it's been a pretty busy schedule.
Yeah.
Um we've the we just I kind of called our team game where I'm GMing for a little bit because I was waiting. I didn't want to migrate the entire campaign from Pathfinder's Foundry system to Starfinder's Foundry system.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for that. But otherwise, I think everyone on the team is probably playing semi-regularly.
Okay,
I'm
Yeah.
good.
That's
That makes
good.
me feel
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
Yeah,
good.
like Jessica plays all the time. Like her family is like her playtester group. They play a lot because she's got two teen kids and a husband who all play tabletop,
Oh,
and they've got
perfect.
friends. So they're doing
We've also
that. Like
done a
I,
lot of Starship playtesting, which
yeah,
kind
we
of
do.
counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and playtesting is more, yeah, it's more
It's
targeted. But in
work,
terms
but
of,
still.
yeah, like we're all playing regularly for fun. But we haven't as a team. We were waiting, like Uras said, we were waiting on getting the foundry fully set up, and it works out because honestly, like it's fun, but we've been so busy that I
It was
feel like
so busy. It's
it might have
Right.
been too
kind of
much. Yeah, it
crazy.
might have been too much because as much as we do all still love it, and it is like tabletops. The only reason any of us are in this career is that we were in the tabletop hobby and got
Sure.
interested in working on it, right? Like, that's what happened there. But it's fun, but it is still work. So like when it does get too crunchy, then we might just okay, maybe we won't play as much for this month, and then we'll come back to it because
Right.
it can blur a little bit. Playing a game with the team and working with the team, even if you love the team, is like it gets
It's still
samey. But
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
it is.
Okay.
But we'll get back to it though. I know we're going to now.
I
Yeah,
was just
I'm very
curious because
excited. I've got some plans.
nice. Yeah, I was just curious because it was the vibe of like everybody asks what are you doing, but nobody asks how are you doing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're doing
Um,
fine. Don't worry. I'm looking at Necromancer. I'm looking at all the stuff that's coming out soon. I'm very happy with
yeah.
what we're
Good.
doing.
Well, I got two questions and what kind of lightning round questions because we do have to wrap this up because
Sure.
got some things we have to do for the rest of the con here. Um, the real quick, there's a question from Kelly. Are there new classes in development, or is the focus on bringing those 1E classes up into 2E first, like Vanguard and Nanosite and Biohacker, all those types of things? I know Precog kind of got worked into Witch Warper, but, is it like, all right, we're going to just create new classes for 2E, or are we going to try to bring some of these known classes up into 2E from 1E? And I know you can't say anything specific, but,
We are gonna bring obviously there we're gonna probably bring every class from 1E back in some form, whether it's most will probably be full classes, but there might be some that'll be archetypes. Like I'll go ahead, I will spoil that in Tech Core, Nanosite is actually an archetype because
okay,
Oh, okay.
we felt that in this that we could make it work better in as an archetype for 2E. However, that also means we can do more stuff with nanites that's not just tied to a class. So when we make
right.
it an archetype, means we can bring it into more like gear and stuff. So don't worry if you're a big nanosite fan. That doesn't mean that we're not. That doesn't mean we're just putting it in one corner. We're definitely. I feel like it enables us to do more with it that interacts with different characters. But like we don't have Vanguard yet. That's not in a book that's coming out. That doesn't mean we're not doing it. We have some new class ideas too that I can't say, but that we do want to
Exciting.
have. So it's a balance of wanting to bring back the cool ideas and concepts that we know are fun and people love and we like too. but also wanting to bring some new stuff so that it's not just, you know, SF1 material converted. So we're trying, so far we haven't done any new classes, but I think that's going to be the next thing that we focus on is we're probably going to see a brand new class or two come out before we
Nice.
get back to some of the old like remaster type things.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
And then the final question I want to leave you guys on. There's a tons of lore and background and setting information for Starfinder. You know, all of its life in 1E and where it's going in 2E. What's an area of the Starfinder setting or lore that you'd like to expand upon or explore more deeply?
And why is it triaxis?
That is actually one that I want to explore more is Triaxis.
You have our permission to totally do that. You can do it.
And
Yeah.
and encouragement.
Yeah.
I
For
also,
me, it's,
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I want to know also. I want to know what's going on. Like, I would love to explore what's happening inside of Apostate because we know that's like a hollow planet that
Yeah.
we've made some implications about and some kind of teasers about in the past. That'd be super cool. What were you gonna say, RS?
I was just gonna say the Atlantic Star Empire because fash bashing is always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. And because you guys had that amazing art for the Starfinder 2E release of the big, what is his name? The big villain from the
Oh yeah, Ishmarai
Ishmarai.
Ophir, the new, yes, the new regent of the empire. So yeah, in some ways, like the Aslanti Empire is like worse than it ever was right now. But at the same time, it's an unprecedented opportunity to fash bash because they're getting really like kind of aggro, but also they have a schism that's going on, a civil war essentially within their own empire. So it's a great time to get in there and
It
do
seems
some
topical.
Aslanti. Yeah, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Keeps happening. Oh my god. Anyway.
I'm excited. When I was like reading at the beginning, I haven't like kept up with all the Starfinder Society stuff, but it seemed like there was going to be a little exploration of the Velaka home planet and the dying star there. I'm a Velaka guy. I love my Space Wolves, and so I hope to get some more development from there as well. That's my interest. So Triaxis,
Yep.
Aslanti, Apostate,
Gotcha.
and Velaka. So all right.
Okay, got it. That's our to-do list.
All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for giving us some of your time today and being forthcoming with some of the stuff that's coming up. It's really exciting, and I know that we at STF are very excited to see where Starfinder goes. And you guys have always been so generous with just talking about your process and being a part of our little community here. So thank you guys so much. Ross, it was great to
you.
meet you.
Wonderful to meet you
absolutely.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Anytime.
And we did not get to all the listener questions, so if you guys want to check the pins and have some time, you feel free to answer them in our Discord. We got a little bit more than half a day left in our STF con, so thank you guys, listeners, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.